Okay, welcome back, everyone. Hope you all had a good Pesach. Just a housekeeping note in terms of the next couple of weeks. So it's always a bit of a stop-start time after Pesach. Next week there will not be a shiur. Wednesday is Yom Zikaron and Thursday is Yom Ha'atzmaut, so there will not be a shiur. The following week there will be a shiur on Wednesday, and then Thursday I'm away. So we'll have today, tomorrow, break next week, then the following Wednesday. But we'll see how as we go. But that's just okay. So let's maybe go back a bit. It's been a while. I don't want to just get back into things. Let's maybe just see the Mishnah again. We're on Masechet Beit Daf Kaf Hey Amud Aleph. We got up to Amud Bet, but let's go back a little bit and review. We saw the Mishnah near the bottom of the Amud. So the Mishnah said, "Be'imam mesukenet lo yishchot elam ken yashut bayom lechol mimena kazayit tzli." Rabbi Akiva omer afilu kazayit chai mibeit tvichata. Shachta b'sadeh lo yivene b'mot uv'mota. So we said, yeah, we're dealing with the Melacha of Shechita. We read in in Hamodim Valachav Rav Zevin, who explained that already nowadays, for a number of centuries already, we don't do Shechita and Yom Tov at all. But in theory, if we needed to, we still could. So yeah, the Mishnah is dealing with, again, a case where the Shechita is not for the sake of Ochel Nefesh, but a person has a Be'imam Sukenet, right? And it says that you're worried this animal is going to die. If the animal dies naturally, it's going to become a nevela, and then you aren't going to be able to shecht it. You're going to lose. It's going to be a great loss. It's going to be a great monetary loss and otherwise. So therefore, it says the Mishnah, if there's enough time in the day that you could now go and you could eat a kazayit tzli, you could roast a kazayit of meat from this animal and eat it, so then you're allowed to shecht it. Because then, again, all of this is dealing with if you're after the meal. If it's before the meal, if it's in the morning, so no problem as well. But because you can't eat a kazayit, you can't really shecht only kazayit of the animal, right? You can't, if you want to eat only kazayit, you have to shecht the entire animal. So therefore, that is acceptable. Rabbi Akiva Omer afilu kazayit chai mibeit tvichata. Akiva says maybe you could take a piece of meat from, we assume to mean at this point from the neck, and that would be quicker without having to do the whole, without having to do all the other parts in order to get the animal ready. That would be quicker, and even if there's less time, Rabbi Akiva says that is acceptable. Okay, and then we had another din which we won't get to today, but we'll get to maybe tomorrow, where the Gemara said, the Mishnah said, sorry. Shachta b'sadeh lo yivene b'mot of mota aval mevi biyado ivarim ivarim. If you shecht it in the field, then you're going to be carrying in the animal on poles and things. That's going to be a zilzul yom tov, and but to carry one piece at a time, that would be acceptable. So said the Gemara like this: we say, Amar Rabbi Rami bar Abba, hefshet v'nituach ba'ola, v'hu adin lakatzavim. Mikan limdat Torah derech eretz shelo yochal adam basar. Kodem hefshet v'nituach. Hefshet v'nituach is where we're skinning the animal and cutting up the different parts. Now it's interesting. It says Rami bar Abba. We find the Torah says you have to do this when it comes to an olah. An olah nobody's eating. An olah by definition is all completely offered up on the mizbeach. That's why it's called an olah, because it goes up. There we do hefshet v'nituach. So the Torah is teaching you derech eretz. So it says Rami bar Abba, right? He says, "Hefshet v'nituach ba'olah v'hu adin lakatzavim." Same thing for a butcher. You're cutting up a piece of meat. You have to do the same thing before you can eat it. So the Torah teaches you derech eretz shelo yochal adam basar kodem hefshet v'nituach, that you cannot eat the meat until you've cut it up, until you've skinned it, until you've prepared it. The question is, what precisely do we mean when we say limdat Torah derech eretz? Limdat Torah derech eretz sounds like it's a maila. Maybe it's a midat chasidut. It's a good thing to do. It doesn't sound like there's an isur. But maybe that's precisely what he means to teach us. So said the Gemara, "My kamashmalan, what are you telling me?" Ilay malapuke midravona, da'amar ravona, beima b'chaya b'chazkat isur medet ad shiva dalacha b'men nishchata b'chazkat ete omedet ad shiva dalacha b'men mitrofa. Right? If you're saying maybe when you say limdat Torah derech eretz, it means to say no, not just that it's a good thing to do, but that I say meaning until you've done hefshet v'nituach, until you've cut up the animal and you're able to check the insides to check that there is no treifa. Meaning you're saying not like Rav Huna. Rav Huna said that we go by the chazakah, whatever the animal was, right? So he said that my Rav Huna b'chayea b'chizkat isur omedet. Once an animal is still alive, so then it's still going to be there's a chizkat isur of the ever menachai until you know that there's been a shchita. At this point, the animal is not kosher. But nishchata, once the shchita has taken place. So then do we say b'chazkat hetel omedet? There is now a chazakah of that it's mutar. Unless you know that it was nitrofa, unless you know that there are treifot. In other words, do we assume that it's kosher until proven taref, or do we assume that it's taref until proven kosher? So Rav Huna says once you have the chazakah, once the shchita has been done, then that's enough. So then, therefore, when Rami Bar Abba said, yeah, you have to do it first, that would seem to be in contradiction. Didn't we learn our Mishnah just like Rav Huna? Rabbi Akiva says you can have a kazayit chai from its beit vichata. What is beit vichata? Mamash, from the neck, from the place where you've done the shchita. In other words, before hefshet. So that would seem to be just like Rav Huna says. So Rav Barabba can't be teaching a chovah. So the Gemara says no. Ma'ila beit vichata mamash lo mimakom shetovachat achilata. In other words, this is a euphemism for the stomach. He's saying you can eat from the stomach, but then you would have to do the obviously cut it up first. So that is not a that is not a contradiction. But then says the Gemara, we're on the last line of the page. Says v'hatani Rabbi Chia makom tvichata mamash. Okay, you can say Rabbi Akiva meant this, Rabbi Akiva meant that, but Rabbi Chia said Rabbi Akiva meant makom tvichata mamash. So ela Rami bar Abba orach ara kamashmalan. In other words, no. Remember, Rabbi is not going to teach you about chovah. He's going to teach you derech eretz. He's going to teach you this is the way that you shouldn't be so hungry. You shouldn't be so ravenous that you're in a rush to go along and to come and eat it. Kedetanya, over the page on top of Amud Bet. Kedetanya lo yachal adam shum v'batzal men rosho ela me'alav. Right? If a person, other cases where the Torah taught us derech eretz in such a way, so the person's eating a garlic or onions, don't eat it from its head, but from the side of the leaves. You're eating it from the other side, people are going to think, oh, you're so angry, you can't even take the leaves off. If you're showing that you're ravenous, you're a glutton, it's not a proper way to act. Similarly, a person shouldn't drink his whole cup in one go, right? This was not the way that the people would drink in those days. That would be, again, that would show that it's a sort of a gluttonous way of drinking. If you drink it in the normal way, in those days the normal way was drinking in 2 sips. Okay, nowadays, maybe if it's a bit more, then that's fine. But you shouldn't be doing it deliberately too quickly or deliberately too slowly. By the way, this concept as well, the idea of derech eretz, of not to eat it too quickly, etc. So we find it by the Korban Pesach, the same thing. The Sefer HaChinuch talks about this. You see all the different halachot that are related to the Korban Pesach. It can't be eaten raw, right? It has to be cooked. It can't be eaten, you can't break a bone of it. Again, so the Sefer Chinuch explains that all of this is to show that we want to eat not like slaves that are starving and that are just stuffing all the food into our mouths, that we're eating it when it's raw and we're breaking the bones. No, it has to be stopped. We have to do it refined with derech eretz. That's part of the way that we show our freedom. That's where as well the Sefer HaChinuch has the famous line that he says, that it's based on what we do is what affects essentially who we are, right? It's based on our actions that changes our hearts, it changes our intentions, changes our thoughts. He writes that very, very fundamental principle. He writes that in the context of the Korban Pesach. Also the same idea by Yaakov and Esav in Parashat Toldot, where we have with the birthright, right? And Esav comes in from the field and he's hungry and he says, He says, Haliteni na min adom adom hazeh, right? He says, just throw this thing down my throat. I can't wait. It's interesting that he used the word na. The word na means please, but the word na also means raw, meaning it's not cooked, meaning he's saying, even if it's not cooked, just let me eat it. So this is what the Gemara is saying here. Orach hara is, that's not the way that we should be approaching our food. Okay, so based on that, then we're going to go into a little bit of this Agadata. It says, Amar Rami bar Abba, about 6 lines down. About 6 lines down on Amud Bet. Right? V'amar Rami bar Abba, Chatzuva mekater agleon de l'shie, Netia mekater agleon de katzvaya, udvoalei nidot, Tumusa mekater agleon de sanehon shel Yisrael. So we have these 3 things. All of these are going to be cutting off the legs of this group, of that group. It doesn't literally mean that we're cutting off somebody's legs, but the point is we can learn derech eretz from different things, different phenomena in the natural world, and each of these examples is going to come and is going to take away the excuse, so to speak, that people would have, right? The Gemara in Yoma that talks about, it says a person should never say, for example, it says a person should never say, I was too wealthy to learn Torah, I was too poor to learn Torah, I was too busy to learn Torah. Right? Well, why? Because they're going to say, you're going to say you were too poor. They're going to say, really, you were poorer than Hillel, right? The famous story of Hillel, who had to pay to enter the Beit Midrash, and when he didn't have the money, he would go and he sat on the roof, and there was the snowstorm, and Shemayin Avtarian looked up, and they saw the silhouette of somebody on the roof, and they saw it was Hillel. Right? And the Gemara gives different examples. So they're going to say, right, you got no excuse. So here as well, these are cases where the Gemara is going to say, you got no excuse. These are things which show us that it could have been done. So Chatzuva mekater agleon de l'shei. So the wicked are going to have their legs cut off figuratively by this Chatzuva. This is a type of plant, and it's a type of plant that grows in very, very straight lines. They use it to kind of mark off the edge, the barriers between different fields. Have a look at Rashi. Rashi says, Chatzuva mekater agleon de l'shei. Says Asev, it's a type of herb or type of grass, maybe. Its roots go down, right? It goes down and grows straight, and it does not go to the sides. It doesn't go to the sides at all. So they would plant it, still plant it between the borders of the fields, the boundaries. Yeshua used this to mark off the borders in Eretz Israel. So this plant, why? Because these Lushaim on the Yom Adin, they're going to say you were stealing and you were taking other people's property and you were encroaching on other people's property, right? Guzlin, v'chomsin, u'masigin gvul, v'enemedim imenu. So you should have learned from the Chatzav. You should have learned from this plant that this is not the way to behave. There's another place where the Gemara talks about all different things, all different animals that have different qualities, right? An ant is hardworking and so on and so forth. And it says that if we didn't have Torah, we would have had to learn these qualities from these different animals. A person is meant to look at nature. A person is meant to look at the world around him and discover which he can learn. So we do have Torah, Baruch Hashem, but we're still meant to learn from them. So the next case says the Gemara, and again I pointed this out last time, but this is interesting because this second case is not really talking about a phenomenon in the natural world, but it's actually talking about a mitzvah that we have. But in any event, it is netia mekater agleon de katzvaya de boalei nidot. This is also the connection to our sugya, why this came up here, aside from the associative fact that it's just Rami bar Abba who said it. But he says that netia, the din of netia. What is the din of netia? That when you plant a tree, for the first 3 years, you cannot benefit from the fruit at all. And in the 4th year, we have what's called netar avai, which is fruit which has a special status of kedusha. And only in the 5th year is it just ordinary fruit that you can eat and benefit and whatever. So he says this din of netia, this is going to be mekater agleon. This is going to come and stand against the katzvaya with boalei nidot. The butchers are those who did not wait to do hefshet and nituach, as we've said, but wanted to come and eat the meat straight away. And those who are boalei nidot, the same, right? Because what is common between these two groups is that they can't wait. They're unable to withhold themselves, unable to withhold the temptation and to wait until the time is right. So the same thing about this. That's what Netia says. You can wait. You wait 3 years, 4 years, right? You should be able to. Show some discipline in that sense. It says Rashi Netia מקטע רגליון דקצפיה, נטיית עולה, שאמרה התורה להמתין 3 שנים מלאכול פירות, this idea of עולה, that the Torah said you have to wait 3 years, before you can eat the fruit, מקטע רגלי הקצבים, הממהרים לאכול קודם הפשט וניתוח, these butchers are hurrying up to eat the meat before הפשט וניתוח, before anything, ופעמים שנמצאת טריפה, and sometimes you'll find that it's going to be a טריפה, וכן דבועלי נידות שממהרים ואינם יכולים להמתין עד שתתפול, they can't wait until the time of תפילה, right? It's also very, very severe. Okay, the third case then says the Gemara, says Tumusa Mekateh Regleon de Sanehon Shel Yisrael. This is a euphemism. It says against those who are against the Jewish people, right? It's a euphemism for Bnei Israel themselves. It says Tumusa, this lupine, is going to stand against them. This tumus is some sort of bean or some sort of kidney which is very, very bitter, and it has to be cooked 7 times before you can eat it. Says Rashi, tumus, min kidnita gol, kamina dashat, sort of like a lentil or a chav, and it's a bit wider, kama ktana, v'umal meod, it's very, very bitter. Ad sheshokin oto 7 פעמים, you have to boil it 7 times. V'nasa matok, and then it becomes sweet. V'tov ad sheochal lematamim b'kinuach soda. Then, once you've cooked it 7 times, then you can eat it for dessert. Okay, it's very, very, then it becomes sweet. So what's the lesson from that? So Shneimar, we have the pasuk in Sefer Shoftim that says, "Vayosifu bnei Yisrael asot hara b'nei Hashem v'yavdu et ha'be'alim v'et ha'ashtarot v'et Eloi Aram v'et Eloi Tzidon v'et Eloi Moab v'et Eloi bnei Ammon v'et Eloi Plishtim." 7 different types of avodah zarah. V'yazvu et Hashem v'lo avduhu. And then it says, and they forsake Hashem, they left Hashem and did not serve Him. V'lo avduhu. So mimashma shnema v'yazvu et Hashem, ein yodeh shelo avduhu. Obviously, if it says v'yazvu et Hashem, and they left Hashem, did not serve Him, that means they did not serve Him. Why do I need to say both? Ma tamud lamal v'lo avduhu. What is that going to teach me? Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, afilu ketumus hazeh. Even the tumus, sheshulkin oto 7 פעמים ואוכלין אותו. You have to boil it 7 times, but eventually you can eat it. B'kinuach seudah, lo asauni banai. However, my children, says Hashem, did not do the same. Meaning, after 7 times and 7 times of rebuke, and you think eventually at this point they would wake up to the right thing, and says they did not. So that is the rebuke. Tana Mishmei Rabbi Meir. Mipnei man etna Torah Yisrael. Why was the Torah given to Bnei Israel? Why was the Torah given to us? Mipnei shehen azin. Because we have this quality of azut, of brazenness. And as I think this is just after where we got to last time, but we explained that the quality of azut is can be a very, very negative quality. We know after Chet HaEgel, right? Am kshe oref, we're stiff-necked people, but it can also be a very, very positive quality, right? Look at what's happened. Look at the Jewish world over the past year and a half, right? You've got the whole world telling you that you're wrong, and the whole world, right? You need a certain level of stubbornness. You need a certain level of brazenness in order to be able to maintain and withstand all that we've been through. So it says that the Torah was given to us, it's quality of azut, right? Without it, we wouldn't have received it. This is the pasuk. So mimino esh dat lamo. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, lo yin halalu shtinaten lehem dat esh. Right, that they should. This is fitting for their nature, for their qualities. They should get the Torah which is of fire. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, lo yin halalu shtinaten lehem dat esh. Ika da'amui datim shal elu esh. For those who say learn a little bit differently. Datehed, the word dat over here means like similar to in Megillat Esther, talking about their practice and their customs. Have a look at Rashi. Rashi says before that, he says Shehen Azin, v'nitna. The first interpretation is Shem Azin v'nitna lehem Torah she'asku, because they are brazen, are given the Torah that they can engage in it. V'hi mateshet kocham u'machnat libam. In other words, they need the Torah because they are brazen, and the Torah is going to sort of soften them and subdue them. The second one is that in sha'elu esh, מנהגם של אלו אש שהם עזים כמו אש. Right? Okay, so it's basically the same understanding that they are brazen like fire. They need the Torah to channel that, to subdue them and to channel them properly. איגד מידותיהם של אלו אש, שאלמלא ניתנה תורה לישראל, אין כל אומה ולשון יכולים לעמוד בפניהם. Were it not for the Torah, then nobody could withstand them because of their brazenness. Okay. So here we have the idea that the Torah is there to refine our character, to channel our energies in the right way. Finally, says the Gemara, Vainu dam Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Gimel Azin, and there are three things, right, that are called Azim. Says Rashi, Kashim lenatzech, difficult to overcome them. What are the three Azim? Yisrael va'umot, Israel amongst the nations, Kelef b'chayot, a dog amongst the animals, v'tarnagol ba'ofot, and a chicken amongst birds. V'yeshlim af ez b'beimah dakah. There are those who say also, comes to beimah dakah, we include also the goat, right? Its very name means ez. V'yeshlim af tzalaf be'ilanot. Those say also the tzalaf is considered an ez, considered a brazen sort of tree. Rashi says, Lo yadati ma azut shelo. So I don't know why, I don't know what exactly it means. Azut, Tosfot says, got through the different parts of the tree, and then it gives out fruit every day. Okay. Top, I'd count for today. So that's the 2 dots, a good place to stop. We'll pick up there from tomorrow. Be'ezrat Hashem. See you all then. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, Rav. Yishkoyach. All too.